What's up?
What up?
I'm here with one of my favorite people, Steve Martin. No.
Yeah, right.
I'm just kidding. But no, he acts like Steve Martin. But this is Mr. Steve, guys. Welcome again to MoveThroughFaith.com. I'm here with Steve, who's going to share his testimony with us. And so I want to start off by saying to you, what is your definition of faith? We know the biblical passage from Hebrew 11:1, but what's your definition?
I think a trust in God based on a relationship. It's kind of built on experiences. Like sometimes my wife will ask me, "Why do I love her?" And I said, I'll say because we've been through so much, and I know that I can trust you. I know I'm not worried about my wife doing certain things or whatever because we've built a relationship. We've gone through some really hard times together, and we're still together 32 years.
Wow.
So I kind of think of the same way with God because the relationship that we built, because I've been through so many things, and He's seen me through so many things. I guess that kind of defines what I believe faith is.
Okay.
It's just a trust that you built because of relationship over time.
And so, like for you, it's a lifetime of pattern.
Yes.
It's a lifetime of pattern of you praying for something and God seeing you through.
Right.
Now let me just piggyback off of that because nobody else has said this in any of the interviews that I've done.
Right.
Every time you pray for something, did God come through?
No, and kind of going back to the scripture you mentioned, one of the versions, one of my favorite versions lately has been the Message Bible. One of the things it says is, in that verse it kind of says, it's our handle on life. Our faith is our handle on life.
Okay.
And for me, it's when I understand, especially when I don't understand what's going on.
Okay.
It's my handle on life.
Okay.
And so, those times when things have not worked out the way I wanted to, my faith has been the handle on things. Like, I don't understand what's going on, God, but I trust you.
Okay.
We've been through so much together. What's going on right now makes no sense to me at all. I can't get a hold on it, because I think we're all kind of control freaks.
Yes.
And when things are totally out of control, your natural reaction is to grab the wheel and want to drive and help God drive. And so especially those times when things don't make any sense, and I don't have in a sense, I don't have a choice.
Okay.
I kind of feel like Peter said, when Jesus kind of challenged him and said, "Okay, so you guys gonna leave me too?" He said, "Where else are we gonna go?"
Right. Right.
We have the words of life, and in those times when I get pushed, when things make no sense at all, when tragic stuff happens, in my life or whatever, I kind of feel, where else am I gonna go? But to God, because I've built up a trust that even though it doesn't make sense right now in front of me, some kind of way I know that God has the plan, and He's going to work it for my good.
And going back to that question, has He always worked out for your good?
There are some things that have not been resolved, so to speak.
Okay.
I didn't. The guy who was the best man in our wedding, he and his wife were 5 months pregnant. My wife and I had just had dinner with them. We were excited about the baby coming or whatever. And like a week later, he calls me in the middle of the night and says, "Can you come get me?" And got killed in a car crash. And, I told my wife, she started screaming. And what happened was he drove up on the accident trying to find where his wife was. She was a manager at McDonald's, and she said, "I'm on my way home," but she didn't show up. Went looking for her. So the police were like, call somebody, get them to come get you because you shouldn't be driving by yourself. And that was really hard.
Okay.
I mean, I had to take him to the morgue, and that made no sense to me.
Okay.
None. I mean, I was so devastated. I actually went to the gravesite. I said, "God, could you just do a miracle?" And He didn't. He didn't. But it's kind of like, I got to go on with my life. That was so hard. It was so hard. I mean, I think 2 weeks, I was trying to be so strong for my friend and for my wife and whoever was around. I didn't really cry. But like 2 weeks later, I just broke down and cried. And that made no sense to me. She was the sweetest thing ever. And it just like made no sense. She was 5 months pregnant.
Right.
And it's like...
Right. So, for someone that's listening to this right now, because I'm like tearing up right now, who's at that place right now, like right at this moment that they're hearing this testimony, where just something in their life does not make sense.
Right.
How do you go on strong with God and believing and not questioning Him?
Right.
Because when you ask for that miracle at the grave, you could have questioned Him.
Right.
You know, your faith could have been turned the other way and said, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
What made you push on?
Well, you know, a funny little twist to that story is, that friend of mine had a sister who was kind of wild and crazy. She was just, since we were teenagers, I met them when we were teenagers. And actually the day of the funeral, you know, everybody was going up to the coffin and looking at our friend. And the sister went past and I was like, she needs to grab her. Because it's like, in my brain, she was the crazy one. Why didn't she die? Honestly, I thought that. And one night my wife and I were about to get ready for church. And this sister called me out of the blue. And honestly, she was such a mess. She was such a low character. When I answered the phone, I realized it was her. I was like, oh my God. I said, where's my wife? I said, I told her the name. And the girl said, hey, Steve, how you doing? I said, fine, how you doing? And I was like, oh, I don't want to talk to this girl. She said, you know, I'm just wondering, how do I get saved? Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
She said, how do I get saved? Because she said, you know, you used to come to the house all the time and you would visit, you know, Willie and Ann, and you know, I used to watch you, and they would kind of like laugh about you, and you know, like you were born again Christian and all. She said, but you know what? There was something different about you. So you know, I think it was like a month or so after the funeral, and she said, so I'm just want to know, so how do I get saved?
Wow.
Exactly. So it was like, wow. I couldn't see that coming.
Right. And that reaffirmed everything.
Reaffirmed that God still had a plan. Did I miss my friend? Oh, yeah. It grieves me. It's still to this day, and that was 20-something years ago. And I don't understand God's plan at all. But because, again, like I said earlier, we've been through so much together. Even though it doesn't make sense, you know, like I said, that virgin that says it's our handle on life. There's some kind of way, even if it's years later and something, it begins to make sense. Even if it never makes sense, I'm going to trust it.
And He has a plan.
And He has a plan.
And sometimes we don't get the answers right away.
No.
And that's what the frustration part can be in your life if you're hearing this right now. But you have to know that He has a plan. And His thoughts and ways are not our thoughts and ways. And you have to understand that. Just one last question I want to ask you is, how does faith define your existence? And I kind of think you explained it in the testimony, but if you wanted to add anything to it, how does faith define you today?
It's my anchor. You know, it's a lifestyle. It's not a jump in and jump out. I remember my wife and I first got married, and we were not saved. And but I had Christian roommates in college, and so I kind of knew the lingo, and they would read the Bible, and I would read my Bible, whatever. My wife would tease me and say, you know, every time something goes wrong, you will run to that Bible. Just before we became born again Christians, and I realized that it really wasn't a lifestyle. I jumped in and out when I wanted to. I jumped in and I used God like a credit card. I would go, so can you take care of this? And check in and check out. And now it's after 30 years, I guess April will be 32 years, that my wife and I gave our lives to the Lord. It's a lifestyle. It's not a jump in, jump out kind of a thing. It's a stable relationship. I mean, does it get crazy sometimes? Do I sometimes still say, oh, I don't know, God, I don't know about this? Yeah. But it's a lifestyle.
So it's you.
It's you. It's me. It's me.
Every decision, every thought, you know, that you have, it's
filtered through my faith in God.
It's based on your faith in God.
Right.
Well, I really appreciate this time. Is there anything that you would just like to say to the viewers? Just one last thing just maybe to encourage them or encourage someone that's watching this testimony?
Again, I guess going back to the words of Peter, where else are you going to go but to God? You have to trust Him.
Mm-hmm.
He really does. Even when it doesn't make any sense. Jesus has the words of life, and there's really nowhere else to go.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna sign out on that. If you haven't tried them, try them.
Yep.
You can't knock something that you haven't tried.
Amen.
So I want to thank you again, Steve, for joining me.
My pleasure.
Thank you guys for tuning in again. We're signing off with Move Through Faith. I told you it was Steve Martin, right? He just had to do that little silly thing. All right, guys. Take care.
Adios.
Peace out.